Hi, my name is Ruth Gilleen. I am the Student Budgeting Advisor with Maynooth University, and I'd like to welcome you all to Postgraduate Open Day. So what I'll be talking about today is financial advice for postgraduate students, having a look over some of the costs you might face in coming to university in Maynooth, options around Susie, which are a lot better than they used to be, other financial supports, and how to contact me and come in and have a chat and discuss all your options. So what does the Student Budgeting Advice Service in Maynooth University offer? It's one-to-one advice service for all registered students. It's not just for undergrads, it's not just for anybody else, it's also for postgraduate students, and we do welcome you very much. We provide support for advice for budgeting for university, options around fees, grants, social welfare entitlements, and information on internal and external supports. We try to maximise all your financial options to help make university just a little bit more affordable. So what are some of the costs you could be facing? Rent can be quite a huge expense for a lot of students. We have on-campus accommodation, but we also provide information for students who are looking for off-campus accommodation through our Home Finder service. And that service is only available to registered students within Maynooth, so it's not like you're on daft or rent and competing with everybody else. It's a really, really good option. The majority of the accommodation around Maynooth is owner occupied, so be prepared for that, have a think about it, make sure you're comfortable, come out and see the properties, talk to the people you could potentially be living with, and make sure you're comfortable. Travel options, there are a lot of them. There's a lot of private buses that come to Maynooth, so have a look under the location on the MU website, the Maynooth University website. There's a link there for buses. That's the main route if you're not on a train line. Make sure you apply for your student leave card. It will make a difference to your travel costs. And if you're driving, consider car sharing. I know COVID has put us off being in enclosed spaces with each other, but it's not a bad idea to think about, could I share the cost of my travel to campus? I'm driving quite a distance, and so's my neighbour. Let's go together, let them drive one week and I'll drive another, and share the costs. You've been through your undergrad, you know you don't need all the books. Be alert to all the options in relation to books. Sometimes students buy the more expensive books as a group and share them between them. That works sometimes, doesn't always work. But just be conscious, we have an excellent library here and a lot more ebooks than we used to. So don't be shy about looking at options and asking questions. You can print in the library here in Maynooth, it's 8 cents per page, or in the Students' Union, who tell me it's cheaper, but I'm not definite on the amount. And there's a lot of options in relation to that. Medical expenses, hopefully not something you have to deal with while you're in college, but just to be aware, we have a GP and 2 nurses on site 5 days a week here in the Student Services building, which is where I am at the moment in my lovely office. And there's a full counselling service for all registered students. All those options are free. If there's follow-on, there may be expenses, especially if there's medical tests or prescriptions, there'll be different expenses, but it's free to access those services once you've registered. I'm probably preaching to the converted here when I say consider the healthy diet. It can get so overwhelming when you're starting a new course, and if you forget about yourself and your own priorities, that can have a really negative effect on your success rate overall. So have a think about it, look at some of the options around campus. There's a lot of places to eat. There's the Students' Union, there's Fusion Hall over on South Campus, my preferred option, just because it's so very beautiful. Phoenix is fabulous as well, but it just doesn't have the same building, and there's nothing we can do about that. And there's lots of options in Maynooth town as well, so don't be shy about exploring the area, asking questions. If you see me, ask me. If you see any of the other staff on campus, they're going to be more than happy to help. So you're thinking, how am I going to pay for all these expenses? How am I going to afford to be in college? One of your first options to explore is Susie. And I can hear you thinking, Susie doesn't do postgrad, and if they do, the income limits are so tight, it won't apply to me. Have a look on the website. There have been some substantial changes to the income limits for Susie for postgraduate study. There has also been an increase in the contribution from 2,000 for fees to 3,500, and that is a hell of a lot of money that makes a big difference to you affording being in college. Have a look on the Susie website, all the links are there, and apply. What's the worst they can do? Is say no. Yes, it's painful, but If you got 3,500 towards your fees, that pain would definitely be worth it. So don't forget you do have the option to appeal. You have 30 days to appeal a refusal of SUSI. So keep that in mind. And if you're not sure what's happening or why you've been refused, come and talk to me. I will be here during the summer. I will be delighted to chat to students because it's a quiet time of the year. Also consider the change of circumstances provision. There's a number of options under which you can go back to SUSI and say, look, you're assessing me against income in 2021, but this is the income situation for me now in 2022. And they can assess you on the current year's income if there has been a change in circumstances, if there's been another child born into the household, if you're being assessed against your parents and they've separated, if you were in a relationship and you've separated. All of those are factors that SUSI can actually look at even halfway through the year. So you may not have been eligible when you applied, but something has dramatically changed. Go back and tell SUSI. Let them say, oh, that's going to work or it's not. Ideally come through me first, so I'll try and point you in the right direction. And the other thing to remember is if you're coming from your degree straight into your postgraduate and you were in education on either side of the holiday period in 2021, SUSI can ignore up to 4,500 that you earned as a student during the 2 weeks Christmas and Easter and the summer break. Up to 4,500 can be ignored, and that could make you eligible for some support from SUSI. So what support could you expect? This is the Reckonable Income Limits and Grants for 22-23 from SUSI. Figures checked with SUSI, thank goodness, because they have changed in the budget. So say, for example, you're applying as a mature independent student because you've had a 3-year break in studies and there's just you in the household. You can provide evidence of independent living to say you were living away and paying rent and utility bills from the October before you come back to your course, and your income comes in under 55,240, you can get 3,500 towards your fees. Say you're still living at home and you have 2 siblings in college and you would be assessed against your parents' income plus your own income and reviewed based on the fact that there are 0 to 3 dependents, that includes anybody in college, relying on your parents' income, so your income plus your parents' income, and you have 2 siblings in college, so you see that increment per relevant person in further and higher education of 4,950. That adds on to the income limit there for 0 to 3 dependents of 55,240 twice, because you have 2 siblings in college, and that will be your cut-off point. If you're totally confused, come and talk to me. I'm more than happy to help. Have a look at the SUSI website. The other payment there is what we call the postgraduate special rate. So to be eligible for that, the income in the household, regardless of household size, has to be under 24,500 in 2021 and must include a long-term social welfare payment from a specified list. That list is detailed on the SUSI website, but if in doubt, email me and I will advise you. If you are eligible for the special rate, if you're in receipt of the special rate and you're looking at postgraduate study and you're not sure whether you'd still be eligible, come and talk to me. Contact SUSI, have a look at it. The really important factor to remember there is if you go and take a year out and work and push that income above 24,500, you will now be eligible for 3,500 for your fees only, whereas on the special rate of SUSI, depending on your distance from the college, which I've just noticed is wrong because they're changing it from 45 kilometres to 30 kilometres, so I'll edit that. You would get maintenance as well. So maintenance per month plus up to 6,270 towards your fees with the postgraduate special rate, which is amazing. So if you're eligible, be really conscious of that and consider now your financial situation for going to do a postgraduate course. Looking at SUSI, these are the contact details. The telephone number has changed. My advice is always email SUSI because you want to literally lay out your question as clearly as you can, and then you have an answer in writing so that if you're not sure about something, you can go back and say, I don't understand this line, whereas when you're on the phone, it can get really overwhelming. I work with SUSI regularly. I find them very, very helpful. I know that not every student experiences that. So what I would be saying is I'm available to you as prospective students to discuss SUSI queries, but if you're Adult by SUSI, ask the question, say, I don't understand, can you explain that again? Or put it in an email, because they understand their systems and they couldn't write your essays. So what other supports could be available for you? So there's the Student Assistance Fund, which is for students, full and part-time, fully registered in levels, courses levels 6 to 10. So that includes postgrad, which is wonderful. It's means tested based on family income. In Maynooth University, we take the SUSI income limits and add 17.5% onto that. You'll find all the details at that link there on the bottom. So there is a bit more flexibility. We try to acknowledge the fact that students who are just outside the income limits for SUSI are highly likely to struggle with fees, plus all the other costs of being in college. You can apply more than once per academic year, and students do. Sometimes they apply once per semester, sometimes they apply once and it resolves their issues. Sometimes there's a higher need, and we will look at every case as it comes in. And to apply, you just book in for an appointment with myself. We'll sit down, have a look through your finances, your financial supports, and see if there's options for funding support. So don't rule yourself out. Come in and have the chat. I promise not to be very judgmental or judgmental at all. We will sit down, we will talk it all through. We'll try and find any way to make college more affordable for you, because that is my focus, and see if the Student Assistance Fund is appropriate for your situation. The Student Emergency Fund, it's one of those sudden and unexpected events. One of the more common ones we would have would be where students are relying on their part-time work in order to afford college, and they're sick. And as you can imagine, over the last couple of years, that has been a very common occurrence. They're a close contact, they've gotten sick themselves, or in the good old days, they just had some straightforward injury that wasn't as complicated as COVID. But that's just one example. If in doubt, come and talk to me. There are always going to be emergency appointments available. So link in, advise me by email, this is what's going on for me. You don't need to go into multiple details, but just a basic overview. I work in a shop, I've broken my arm, I now have no income for the next 6 weeks. That's really clear. That's a sudden and unexpected event. I'm going to do everything I can to help you to afford to stay in college. The other short-term loan is a really handy one, because it's one of those things that it's in your account the next day. So again, it's that emergency support. So say you've called down to see our lovely Dr. Robert in the health centre. He says, look, you need an antibiotic, and you're there looking and you're saying, well, right, I can afford the antibiotic, or I can afford to eat this week. I cannot do both. The short-term loan could be a really good option. We have alternatives to that, for example, food vouchers for SuperValue. So maybe they would be a better option. €30 food voucher, you can still feed yourself and buy your prescription. But the short-term loan is really convenient option for a lot of students that just hit a cash flow problem in that week. So some useful contacts. MABS, the Money Advice and Budgeting Service, is a free, confidential, non-judgmental service. And I should be able to say that because I used to work there. And they're fantastic. There's loads of tips and tools on their website to help you plan your budget and organise things and assess, okay, look, I can manage this, this and this, but I'm going to fall short at this stage of the year, or I'm worried about this piece. That's where you can come and talk to me about additional funding if it's needed. Studentfinance.ie is a great site. Citizens information, if they don't have the answer, there probably doesn't exist. Threshold is for tenants, and the Residential Tenancies Board is for those kind of landlord-tenant dispute situations, or for looking at what the rules should be. What should your landlord be doing? What should you be doing? Welfare and revenue are probably mygov.ie now at this stage, because they all seem to be transporting themselves across, although I have found a few bits still on welfare, so that's why it's up there. And on revenue, FLAC, I know it looks a bit weird to put it up there, but sometimes you hit problems. It could be an employment issue, which the Workplace Relations Commission can help with, or it may be just something has happened. You're not sure where you stand legally. The free legal advice centres will give advice only. They won't take your case. They're usually voluntary solicitors who work through the Citizens Information Centres. It can be a really good way to just kind of bring down the stress levels. Something has happened, car crash, God, I'm thinking awful nightmare things. Maybe you've won the lotto when you want to look at your privacy elements. That's a really good place to start. So how do you access the Student Budgeting Advice Service? There's the email or the website address on the top of the page. You book an appointment. When you click on that link, you'll see book an appointment in big letters. And we will be asking that you fill in a form before you come to see us. It's a basic budget just to give me an idea of where you're at. Where do you think you're at? How are your finances going for you? It's not set in stone. It's a guideline for me so that when you're sitting down to talk to me, I have somewhere to start the conversation and some idea of your circumstances. My office, which I'm in now, which is very nice, I won't lie. I have lemon lavender scented office, which everybody comments when they come in. I don't even smell it anymore. It's a real shame because it is very nice. But you're more than welcome to call to a drop-in to just get your head around some stuff. They're Wednesday during term time from 10:30 to 12:30. They have come back now from the 9th of March and will be continuing to the end of the semester. Come in and have a chat. The phone number there is for student services because although there's a phone on my desk, I never get time to answer it. So I don't like to create the expectation that you'll get me on the end of the phone when you won't. The best way to communicate is email. student.budget@mu.ie. Email, say, look, I have this question, I'm not sure about this. In my world, there's no such thing as a stupid question. It's just foolish to miss an opportunity because you don't ask the question and have time to think over the answer. So I hope this was helpful. I look forward to meeting you all in person at some point. And I wish you every success with your postgraduate study.